So what really happened between Iran and the US? We do have a ceasefire. At the final hour, the US president said, you know what, we will not be attacking you. Let's go for a ceasefire. He decided to switch gears. It seems that something stopped him. Let's unpack and let's find out what's the Iranian take on this. Hello everybody, my name is Stavros. I'm a professor of international relations and an advocate for democracy. This is Black Flag Media. We're raising the black. This is independent, a commentary and analysis on what's going on around the world. And I would like to talk a little bit today about how we ended up seeing this new ceasefire, that it's lasting, thankfully, it's still holding. This is good news, obviously. Nobody's in favor of another crisis in the Middle East, although there's no permanent peace at the moment that I'm shooting this video. But it was really interesting, the fact that the US president, so we had a ceasefire and it was about to expire Tuesday. And thankfully, we had an extension at the last minute, actually. The US president, before that expiration, he was saying that we will bomb these people, the Iranians, back to the Stone Age. We will destroy their bridges. We will destroy their infrastructure, their energy facilities. There's going to be carpet bombing, whatever. So he was really, really aggressive. But everything changed. At the last moment, he said, yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's not do that. Let's just extend the ceasefire and see what happens, because, he mentioned that, I guess, there are some factions in Iran that they disagree, and we would like to give them some time to agree on something. They're the moderates and the radicals. So let's help them agree on something, and let's wait on them about a new proposal. So what's that all about? Well, actually, this is the so-called madman theory. The theory that you engage foreign relations, your foreign policy, by saying, I'm unpredictable and I'm aggressive. I am trying to enforce my will by threatening you. But at the end of the day, this was a bluff. And this was a bluff that the Iranians said, they called it. They said, we're not afraid of you. We don't trust you. We don't think that there's anything else you can do against us. You have been trying your best to intimidate us and you have been killing and assassinating, killing military personnel and assassinating political leadership. The first one is acceptable during wartime. The second is a war crime, assassinating political leaders. But at the same time, the regime, the Islamic Republic, is still standing. Nothing changed. So, obviously, this is a major defeat for the US president. He could not force them into negotiations. He was saying that J.D. Vance, the vice president, is going to go to Islamabad. He's going to talk with the Iranians, and they're going to capitulate. They're going to cave in. Nothing happened. The Iranians not only didn't go to Islamabad, they said there's not going to be any negotiations under threat. This is our mantra. This is our dogma. And this is powerful. This is a red line that nobody could cross. So let's see, because it seems that there's a pattern here, right? The so-called pattern of, it's the latest manifestation of this. I would say it's a deeply embedded pattern in Trump's approach. The idea is similar, and you can see it in many other crises. Like, there's a period of maximalist threats and sharp deadlines. Do this. If you don't do this, there's going to be like 80% tariffs on your products, right? That's what he said to the Chinese. Well, the Chinese said, yeah, you know what? We'll stop exporting our rare earths to you and our critical minerals to you, to the US, if you follow with your threat. And then at the end of the day, Trump caved in. That's what his political opponents are calling him, a taco president. Taco, it's an abbreviation for Trump always chickens out. So he did chicken out. So that's the pattern, right? We have a period of maximalist threats. Then we have a last-minute retreat because the cost of action becomes insufferable. When it becomes tangible and real, Trump actually chickens out. This is the idea. And then he unilaterally extended the so-called ceasefire in between him and Iran. And Iran didn't say that they're going to extend it. They said, de facto they extended it, but they didn't say we're going to be extending it. So he did it himself. Again, He was so forceful in his rhetoric. He was saying, he also said, he literally said hours before the extension of the ceasefire, he said, I'm not going to be extending the ceasefire. There's not going to be any, you're not going to get out of it by an extension. We're going to keep pushing and attacking you if you don't give us everything that we want to. Guess what? They didn't give them anything. His ultimatum was a hoax, and he had to cave in and back the heck down. So this is pretty clear. And the Iranians had either to capitulate or, hold their ground and prevail. And that's exactly what they did. So the Iranian strategic doctrine, which is really established, it says that, and it's unequivocal, that we're not going to have any dialogue, any form of dialogue, any form of negotiations, as long as we have this maritime blockade against us by the US. So the Americans have enforcing a maritime blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. They're saying no vessel could have any deals or trade with Iran. This is gunboat diplomacy, basically. And the Iranians are saying, yeah, that's not going to work with us. If you want to negotiate with us, you're going to stop threatening us and enforcing this blockade. This is an act of war. Also, the Americans, they actually took over a couple of vessels. One of them was an Iranian vessel named Tuska, and they stole this vessel. It was an act of piracy. This was also an act of war on behalf of the Americans. So this is not tactical from the Iranians. This is, I would say, a core principle that they have. They reject categorically negotiation under duress or under threat or under violence. This is a red line. And with this red line, the Iranians managed to neutralize what the American president tried to do, whatever he was trying to do with his threats. So he created a trap, a binary trap, either this or that, by himself. He set the trap himself. He was trapped by saying that, we'll bombard you, we'll bomb the heck out of you if you don't comply. And then that was the trap. He either had to go through this threat and materialize this threat and these attacks, which would cost him and his allies and the world, I would say, or he would have to cave in, and he didn't choose to escalate because that would be unpredictable. So he had to step back from his own declared position. This was, I would say, a big failure and a strategic defeat. Trump always chickens out. This is what TACO means. This is the pattern of behavior. We have seen it in several different points in time. Trump announces tough positions, creates high expectations, and finally he backs down in the face of paying the real cost of his threats. He did the same thing with the Russians, right? Remember, he was threatening them with more sanctions, would destroy him, would destroy Putin, whatever. That didn't work. He chickened out. Then he threatened the Europeans with stealing Greenland, annexing, invading. He even said that I'm considering even military actions. But at the end of the day, when the Europeans said enough is enough, he chickened out. I would say the Chinese were the first to expose this weakness, this bluff. He's a weak president because, again, this policy of the unexpected or the madman policy means that you don't have a strong position. You're posturing because you are weak. Your strategy is weak, so you have to play this wild card kind of joker, chaos, anarchy kind of approach to foreign relations, which means that you're not feeling strong or confident enough. This is not a display of strength. What Trump is doing right here, he didn't follow through with his strength. So this is weakness. This is a failure. It's clear that this is failure. Not only that, but it seems that Iran became stronger out of this. Actually, they felt the pressure. They didn't cave into the psychological and economic pressure. They kept their deterrence. And, they have their army, which is still up and running, actually, especially their capacity to hit vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. That's why there's no trade right now in the Strait of Hormuz, even though the American president is lying. There's no trade in the Strait of Hormuz because the Iranians have put mines there. They threatened the Hormuz with their drones and their small boats in the Hormuz. So they do have the threat, right? And on the other hand, Trump is threatening, but he's not executing on his threat. That means that he's not credible, right? So a threat is only as credible as the will to execute it, as the saying goes in international relations. So when your threat is you're not executing it and you don't have the will to execute it, your threat becomes actually a liability. It's not an asset anymore. When you have ultimatums, you're not enforcing them, you're emboldening the other side to resist with greater confidence. That's exactly what this erosion exactly is what happened with US in the eyes of the Iranians. I would say that it seems that the so-called strategic ambiguity means that you don't have a clear path forward, clear path moving ahead. So that's really catastrophic. You're not irrational, you're just weak. You're not irrational, you just don't know what you should do, how to deal with this. That's why you have to immediately de-escalate and cave in, right? This is the idea. That's why we see this cycle, this Trumpian cycle of threat and retreat systematically, and this erodes U.S. power, this erodes U.S. political power, U.S. diplomatic credibility, right? This is what is happening. This is what we're seeing in all these major crises. It doesn't seem that this approach is working against Iran, and Iran will emerge out of this crisis either as a fourth major global power of center of power, if the Americans actually maintain their position, or the Americans will have to engage again in war to change that from happening. And I think that we'll see more war happening in the Middle East, unfortunately. That's my prediction at this point in time. That's it for today, guys. If you did like this video, please share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep raising the black. Thank you. Final point here, I would say that this whole dynamic reinforces the strategy of resistance within Iran and the regime. I would say that the Iranians, they faced this pressure, they didn't yield, and they seem to be validated, especially the hardliners. This strengthened not only their internal consensus that we need to defy the Americans and continue in doing that, but also the hardliners, right? It seems that the more Washington bluffs, the more confident Tehran becomes in calling that bluff. And I would say that other global actors is seeing exactly that the US, the brinkmanship, putting the situation to the edge of the cliff, but they're not ready to enforce their ultimatums. It makes them weak generally in the eyes of other actors such as Russia and especially China, and this weakens the US further.